Welcome everyone. This is a workshop about advanced lucid dreaming. My name is Richard Hilton, and I've done 2 workshops earlier here where I covered a lot of the foundational information about lucid dreaming, and this is a continuation of it. The structure will be that I'll quickly represent some of the information from the first workshop and then start moving on to advanced stuff. I'd also like to hear from other people's experiences here. There'll be a lot of time for people who have had lucid dreams to share what I and most other people are interested in is the most profound thing that you've gotten from it, and or a specific technique that you used in the dream world to help you navigate the dream world and do something that's profound and meaningful and has impacted your life in a positive way. Dreams are a place where we're at the center of the creation, and it's where our thoughts and our feelings manifest instantly in that realm. So it has incredible potential for us and experiences that we can have that we couldn't have in this waking state. But the key to this experience is becoming conscious of it while it's happening. And so that is the art of lucid dreaming. And I've been studying this for about 14 years, and so over this period of time I've kind of tried to compress as much information into a small package that I can pass to people, because this information doesn't seem to be getting into our society yet as quickly as it could be, and so that more people can be having these types of experiences. So what I'm going to go over quickly are the 7 things that I think everyone needs to know in order to have a lucid dream. The first thing that everyone should know is what happens when you go to sleep at night. What is the sleep cycle? What's going on in your brain? And most importantly, when do we dream?
Richard, is the microphone?
Oh, yes.
Is it on?
Testing microphone. Hello.
Try it now. Try it now.
Try it now? I don't hear anything. There's a switch on it.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is to know when you're dreaming the most vividly. The human body has a circadian rhythm, which is a 24-hour period. I also pass this around so that people can see it. There's also a mailing list on the inside if you want to continue to get email. But what's really important about this graph is the red parts are when we're dreaming. And if you're practicing lucid dreamer, you're aiming for these last red REM periods. And particularly the last one tends to be the most vivid.
The time, sir?
It varies for everyone, but after 8 hours of sleep, you're having your most vivid REM cycle. The human body prioritizes deep sleep, so in the beginning of the night we often sleep a lot deeper, which allows us to have lighter sleep later in the morning time. The second thing that everyone should know is if you have chosen that you want to start having more vivid dreams, the most well-known practice you can do is called wake back to bed, otherwise known as sleep interruption. And how it works is knowing that the circadian rhythm is broken into those 90-minute pieces, you wake yourself one cycle before the last one, preferably by alarm. And it's good to be 2 hours. It's a 90-minute cycle, but if you give yourself 2 hours before you need to wake up, then you can wake up and give yourself a little time of awakeness and then go back into the last cycle. And that allows you to recall dreams from the cycle you just woke from, as well as set your intention of going into the next cycle aware that you will be dreaming soon. So that's the basic practice that a lot of dreamers and lucid dreamers do when they're specifically trying to have more vivid and meaningful dreams. The third thing everyone should know is how to recall your dreams and the importance of the recall process. Most practicing dreamers have a dream diary of some kind, and the act of writing in your dream diary is powerful for your future dreams. So the reason why a dream journal is so good is because when you have a dream, in order for you to write it down, you have to turn it into a cohesive sentence. And that process strengthens your memory for future dream and dream recall. Try this. I'm not used to this microphone actually.
It really helps because of that.
Okay. So it's important to have a dream recall practice. The fourth thing that you need to know. Oh, at any given moment, you should be able to determine if you're awake or dreaming. So every practicing lucid dreamer should be able to, right now, determine if you're awake or dreaming. Does anybody want to prove to me right now that you're either awake or dreaming? Or does anyone want to share a reality test technique?
Slap yourself.
Slap yourself? It's not. What does that do? No. Okay. Robert?
Look at your hand and count the number of fingers on your hand.
Try to fly.
Okay, the hand counting one is good as long as something abnormal happens. But if you count your hand and nothing abnormal happens, then it doesn't work as good. But as long as something shifts, then you can know that you're dreaming. What was another one?
Try to fly.
Try to fly. That's a really good one. That's my go-to one, the second. If I can't do my primary one, that's my secondary one. Because in dreams, there is no gravity. And the only reason we walk around in dreams is because we're used to that. And we believe that there's gravity. That keeps us on the floor. So if you're in a dream and you actually test the gravity, it's very easy to float and bounce, and you can quickly determine that there is no gravity, as long as you're open to that concept. Another aspect of reality testing is to actually do it. It's one thing to know how to do a reality test. It's another thing to actually do the test with the mindset that you could actually be dreaming. Does anyone else want to share a technique or a way to get lucid?
My first lucid dream, I wet the bed once, or a couple times throughout this couple of weeks. And so I was really afraid that I would wet the bed, and so I would be like, am I dreaming? You know, like when I would actually go to the bathroom on the toilet, so I'd be dreaming that I was peeing. So, anyways, and I was silly, but like I think about it when I go to the bathroom. I'm like making sure I'm not dreaming.
Okay.
You're not alone. That has happened to me.
Okay, there are a lot of dreams about going to the bathroom, and they're usually odd, and sometimes you can get lucid from them.
That's a big risk, though, because what if you're wrong?
It's just, it's another technique that uses something bizarre, like the bathroom. But it's not a solid technique, and that's what I'd like to share, that a solid technique that comes from the Lucidity Institute that has a 97% accuracy rate, and it's called text rereading. And so how it works, before I explain it, you should always do a reality test when something bizarre happens, or even when the subject turns to lucidity or the question of dreaming. So how you do the technique is you reread text. For example, you can read this, Hare Krishna, and then look away from it, and then look back at it, and Hare Krishna. So the text stays the same. When you're awake, it'll always stay the same. But when you're dreaming, there's a 97% chance it'll change. And that's through the research from the Lucidity Institute and laboratories and testing, and also many people's experiences with text rereading. It's very reliable, and it's one that can get you very lucid. Because when you see that text change, you know at that moment that it's a lucid dream.
I've noticed that when I have wet dreams, I totally know I'm dreaming, but then I wake up shortly afterward, and it takes me out of it. But I know for true.
Yes. Okay.
I was just going to say also what helps me is looking into a mirror.
Mike?
Because usually
I was just going to say whenever I want to do a reality test, I look into a mirror. Because a lot of times it's almost like the text rereading thing. If I look in and then look away and look back, I tend to never have the same face, so it tends to change more often.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. And I want to let you know that I'm going to talk a little bit, and then I am going to allow people to actually share something that they feel would contribute to the Advanced Lucid Dreaming Workshop. too. But the other thing I want to add to the reality test is that you have to sincerely do it. And I want everyone to do it a couple times at this workshop, particularly when something happens that is out of place, that doesn't make sense why it should be there. So the fifth thing that you need to know is how short-term memory affects dreams. When you go to bed at night, you can't store your long-term memories. It's part of the brain chemistry that takes place. All you have is short-term memory. And this is important for two different reasons. The first reason this is important is because when you wake up in the morning, all you can recall is your short-term memory. The other reason is the moment that you get lucid, all you have to deal with is your short-term memory. That's how long you get. If you go for longer than that, you don't remember the beginning part. And the beginning part is usually the best part. So when you get lucid, you can take that into account, that you have a minute or two to do something amazing, and then you should actively wake up. So the next thing, knowing that you have this short period of time, the sixth thing that you should know about lucid dreaming is you should predetermine what you want to accomplish when you're in a dream. Like, so even right now, like, what do you want to experience the next time you're in a lucid dream? What would you really like to do that could benefit your life? So it becomes like a daytime contemplation. And and also when you become lucid, you can actively do that. Does anybody know why the umbrella is here?
Because it's out of place.
It's out of place. So hopefully it triggered your mind to think of doing a reality test, and if it doesn't, this is a good example. Because it's out of place, and I don't know why it's here either, actually. So the seventh thing you need to know is dream stabilization. Many people have the experience of getting lucid and waking up. The nature of the dream world is one in which you have to stay engaged with what's taking place. That means touching, seeing, feeling, moving, interacting, observing. All those things have to be going on, otherwise you wake up. So, but the thing about it is lucidity is it's almost like an intellectual thing, especially when you take into the full account of what's taking place when you become lucid in a dream. It can make you stop and go, wait, what's happening here? Am I in bed and this is not real, but it looks really, really real, and there's people here, and so when you start doing that, that's very internal processing, and that causes you to wake up. So a very good dream stabilization technique that you can do the moment you get lucid is to rub your hands together. This is a very effective dream stabilization technique because this is rubbing your dream hands together, and it keeps your dream body engaged with the dream that's taking place. And there's also a popular one that's called dream spinning, and that's just like spinning around with your hands out. And that's also activating your dream body, and it can help re-stabilize the dream. So those are the 7 things. I'm going to talk about a couple more things, and then I'm going to start opening it up to people to start sharing their experiences. Let's see how much time passed. Okay. So take a moment and imagine that there are 2 items here in front of you. The first one is a chessboard, and on the chessboard it has all the pieces. And on this side there's a dream catcher, and the dream catcher's elaborate symbol. All of us at every moment are in 2 different worlds. There's the inner world, which is symbolized by the dream catcher, and there's the outer world, which is symbolized by the chessboard. These 2 worlds, we're in both of them all the time. But they overlap, and we can kind of go through the different ones. There's certain things about the outside world that we cannot change. It has a stability, it has rules, like the chessboard. It has certain rules in which the pieces move only a certain way. If you believe that you can move them in a way that's against the rules, it does not work. The other player on the other side says, no, you can't do that. So, and if you believe you're the best chess player in the world, and you play someone who's better than you, then they beat you. And that's how the outer world works. We model our inner world based on that outer world. Dreams are inner world experiences. What's happening in the outer world is we're laying in bed, but the world we create is this inner world based on symbols and beliefs. So a dream catcher, its power exists in that it's a symbol. We put the power into a dream catcher. It doesn't have a physical tool. It's purely a symbolic tool, and that's how the dream world works. Where if we believe we're the best chess player in the world, we are. That's the structure of the inner world. So the belief systems and our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, that's what creates the inner world. And that's also why lucid dreaming is such a powerful practice, because you get to tap into that inner world, your inner world, and consciously interact with the things that are there. A lot of the time people imagine lucidity as like the holodeck in Star Trek, but once you start to experience it, it's more like being at a festival where there's all these things going on. The dream has its own personality, and if we attempt to control stuff, it's a fun and interesting thing that I recommend everyone try. But eventually you start to realize that it's not so much about controlling things and creating a holodeck experience where you can have like hang out in paradise or meet celebrities, or it's not so much about that as much as it is exploring this inner landscape that has gifts and interesting, strange things that happen and messages for you that can benefit your life. And for anyone who's had a profound dream, non-lucid or lucid, knows how powerful and potential it can have. And it's non-verbal wisdom too. When you share a dream, you can't always capture exactly what it was that moved you and shifted your life in such a way. And so I've had this experience, and a lot of different ways, but the way that I would like to share at this time is actually one that brings me to stand here right now. Because 12 or 13 years ago, I had an extreme fear of public speaking. In fact, my mind would stop functioning in front of people. Thank you. And I contribute my practice of lucid dreaming that allows me to do this. Because one of the great wisdoms that lucid dreaming teaches is how to convert fear into exhilaration. And the way that it does this is that anyone who's had a nightmare knows that the fear in a lucid dream is powerful, it's scary, and it's something that feels profound. If you can become lucid in a nightmare, there's no reason to run away. There's no reason to shift what's happening. But there's a lot of energy in that dream, the nightmare situation. And if you can become lucid in that state and stand in the presence of fear and not retreat, you can find that that energy converts into exhilaration. And if you can shift it into that, then you're able to actually absorb the wisdom and move through it. Your body still has the jitters and the response, but you can be present to it. And so throughout my life, practicing lucid dreaming, I've had a series of dreams about public speaking, and different ones at different times in which I've accepted more responsibility to come and spread this information. And I'm going to share one lucid dream and how it affected me, and then I would like to open it up and hear from other people. So if you have something you want to share, just think about it, and I'll try to get to as many people as possible. So that's what's going to happen. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I had made a documentary on lucid dreaming, and I was presenting it every once in a while. Like once a year, I would just go out and present it somewhere, and usually the opportunity would just present itself. I liked the documentary because it did the talking. But after the documentary, I would start to come on stage and kind of like talk about it a little bit. And so I was kind of starting it out, but then I had this really profound dream in which I was in this building and I didn't really know what was going on. There were all these odd dream characters, and I was trying to catch on to what was happening, and this guy was handing out ice cream, and then we all got into this circle, and I was like, okay, now it's going to be revealed what this is about. And then two people grabbed my arms and somebody injected me with something, and I actually woke up slowly, with a profound sense of betrayal. Like I had been betrayed by these people. And something rare happened that doesn't happen to me much. I should mention I'm an average dreamer, which means I don't have this natural dreaming ability. I have lucid dreams on rare occasions, and they're profound and amazing, and I hold them to be very special. And every once in a while you have these amazing experiences where I woke up with the sense of betrayal and then went back into the same dream. And when I did, I appeared and the circle was just like 10 feet away. And they all looked at me, and then one of them pointed at me and said, "Hey, shouldn't Richard be asleep?" And at that point I was like, no, that's not necessary. And I start backing away because I don't like them. And then they start coming towards me, so I start running away the other way. And the doors open up to this balcony, and there's like, it's 2 stories. And at this point I'm like, okay, am I dreaming? Is this a dream? And I think, and I don't advise this. Usually you should be able to do a reality test, but came up to the balcony, and I look, there's people coming, and I think I'm dreaming. And I decide to jump. And when I do jump, and the moment I land, I feel that I didn't, the gravity was less. So I landed calmly and safely. And I was like, okay, I know for a fact this is a dream. At that moment, I became fully lucid. And I've already become lucid many times in the past. So the technique that I invoked at that moment is one that I invoke during nightmare situations. And it's one where I'm able to float backwards slowly. So usually things are on the ground that are after you. So I did that. I floated backwards, and I'm looking at this mansion. And all of the people go downstairs, and they come running out the front door towards me. I'm not too concerned about it, and I'm trying to just kind of absorb what's taking place. But that guy who was handing out the ice cream in the beginning, he walks up onto the balcony, and he jumps into the air, and now he's flying. And he's coming towards me, so he's on my plane now. And then I use the second technique that I've learned, and this is actually the most influential technique that I want to share with you. And it's one that I call positive center. And how the technique works is when you're in a lucid dream and you're aware that you're dreaming, if you ever come upon something that's intimidating or something that doesn't seem like it's right, or there's something off about it, you can use this technique. And how it works is, you accept that you are the center of the dream at that moment. This is my dream. I'm the center of this dream. And if it's an intimidating creature or a guard, you can say, they're there to help me. They're there to guard the dream for me. So I attempt to use this technique on them. So I'm like, this is not necessary. We can work together on this or something. And usually it works, but actually in this case it did not. But I did want an opportunity to share that technique. It's better when I share it when it does work, because it does work. But in this rare instance, it did not.
What happened to you?
So what happens is he continues to keeps coming at me, and I'm like, this doesn't have to happen, like, don't, this isn't, this is not.
Ice cream. Ice cream.
So what happens is, then I shift my mind, and I'm like, you should be teaching these people lucid dreaming. And he's still coming at me. I'm like, you teaching lucid dreaming? I'm yelling at this villain type character that's coming at me. And right before we collide, I actually fly down and I pick up one of these people and I use him as a human shield. And we merge like in the air into like that white light. And then I wake up. And what was so profound to me about that dream was the energy I was pushing out was you should be teaching lucid dreaming, is what I was yelling at this character. And so when I woke up and I had absorbed that character, and after that, I was actually living in Santa Barbara at the time, and I started co-facilitating a dream workshop called Revelation Dreamworks. And that kind of started this empowering journey where I stopped talking about lucid dreaming like it's a thing, and I started to compress the information and try to get it to people, teaching lucid dreaming. So there are 3 things that you need in order to have an active, vivid, and meaningful and lucid dreams. 1 is knowledge and information about how it works, like the 7 things you need to know, and that's something that's accumulative too. You keep learning. The second thing is a technique. So something that you're actually doing to have more lucid and vivid dreams. This.
I just wanted to add to that point. I found that if you are breathing really consciously all the time,
Just project.
fine, especially through your nose. Just by if you take a really deep breath in, full capacity, and you breathe it out full capacity, and you try to maintain that every single waking moment, you are actually oxygenating parts of your brain that usually don't get oxygen. Our brains are like muscles as well. So you can actually get the blood and the chi flowing into the subconscious mind, which actually helps you have more vivid dreams, very frequently. And I started doing that, and I hadn't had dreams for over 15 or 16 years. And all of a sudden I was having 5 or 6 dreams a night. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. And I'd also like, it reminded me of something too. When we're asleep and we're dreaming, we really only have control over 2 things, and that is breathing. So in a dream, if you go, that's happening in your lungs. So you can breathe deeper in a dream and it will affect your dream, make it more vibrant. And the other thing is eye movement. So if you're in a dream and you look around, in your bed, your eyes are moving like that. So rapid eye movement is you looking around in a dream. And if you see somebody laying in bed and their eyes are moving, they're looking at stuff in the inner world. And I know that it's a little bit more complex because it's brain chemistry stuff. There's a little bit of jitteriness to it too. It is rapid or random because they found that blind people also have rapid eye movement. So there is an element of eye movement that is just like firing neurons or something. But in laboratories they have tested to see eye movement correlation in dream and waking, and it's true. So the first thing is dream knowledge. Second thing is a technique. And the third thing is a person, people, or community to share experiences with and learn from. So that's what I hope to bring here, because people have had these experiences. It's important for you to share them and also to hear what other people are going through. And I'd also like to share, at this time I live in San Diego, and I've started a group called the San Diego Lucid Dreamers. And we meet and just share the experiences that we've had over the past month or 2. And just to share the structure of that, if you want to recreate it, it has 3 parts. The first part is everybody in the circle shares what happened to them in the past month. Then there's a discussion topic, and that can be either just made up at the moment, let's talk about this. And then third, everyone goes around the circle again and shares what they want to do in the future. So it is important to set your goals. What do you want to do when you get lucid? And part of that daytime practice that can be really beneficial is to treat it like right now. If you did this text rereading and it turned out that the text changed, dreams are as vivid as this. So what would you do from here? And if you can answer that, that can give you really profound lucid dreams. And also set your intention. If you want to do something, then it helps you have that experience. And so I think when people share, if you can also just say what you want to do next, that would be beneficial. And so I would like to share that myself and then open it up. So setting intentions is really powerful, and also to allow the time for them to happen. Because I've set dream intentions and it's taken months and years before I feel like I can move on to the next one. One of my favorite ones that I had for a long time was dream quotes. And this is when you become lucid, you find a dream character, and you ask them a question. And you stay with them until they give you an answer that's sufficient, like something you like about it, and then you wake up and write it down. So you get word for word quotes from characters. So that one's pretty fun, and you can hear some interesting stuff from it. And then I've moved on to what I would like to experience, and I'm still on this, is I try to bring in spirit guardian animals. So when I get lucid, I say, I'd like to be in the presence of a spirit guardian animal. And sometimes I do specific ones. Like I'm still trying to get a turtle on my side. But they're elusive and quiet. So, but that's where I am now. That's what I like. I like interacting with dream characters and outside elements, because they're usually the ones that have the oddest things about them. Like they have their own motivations and stuff. Which this is a good illustration of kind of what like what a dream character is. So, like when you talk about a dream character, you're like, well, it's just a part of me, and so it's probably pretty predictable. But then dream characters have their own little personality and their own motivations that they just do what they are meant to do. And the main thing is you can't always predict what they're gonna do. They just have this like wiring inside them. So what I would like to do is actually have people come up on stage and share either a technique that they found has been effective, or a dream that they've had, or anything that you want. And then if we can just, or I can bring a microphone, but does anybody have something that they would like to share? Otherwise I can continue to share things.
Well, can you also talk about sort of more advanced things, like let's say you have a lucid dream and you want to get better at controlling. I mean, you have some more advanced techniques to share with them.
Okay. I have this. There's a category of things that I call dream powers. So there are things you can develop in the dream world to use. Positive sensor is my favorite one, and the one that I always like to share with people because it's very powerful and it's used a lot. But I made a list, but I have to recall them from memory. The next one is flying. And how many people here have had a flying dream? Okay, good. Yes. So out of those people, I know flying is natural, but some people develop a technique. Like, how do you fly? Does anybody want to share?
So technically it's not when I'm falling, right? That's different. I catch air. I just try and jump and catch like stair steps or air steps. And if I get it quick enough, I'm like a pet dog paddle. Then I can get enough momentum and I start jumping larger, and I just kind of work my way up until all of a sudden I'm like, I can do it. So it takes me a little bit of getting my brain warmed up, I guess, used to the anti-gravity. I don't know, but anyway, that's one thing. Just dog paddle. That's what I call it.
So, okay. Yes.
Once I know that I'm lucid dreaming, I'm like, oh, I'm lucid dreaming. I can fly. And I just like, no, I can't. I'm like believing it. And then I just start flying. Like, just believing you can.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
That's one of the interesting things about it too, is flying is easy when you just believe you can. And it's also another phenomenon with lucid dreaming is there's certain things that just happen naturally when you start. And then as you have more and more lucid dreams, they become challenging, or sometimes you'll get into a dream and you can't fly, and you're like, what is happening here? What am I doing wrong? And you meet up challenges, and then you have to employ a technique. Did you have something to say, Robert?
Oh. Yeah, just the same technique I was saying on Friday, that I'll look at like a cloud or at some mountaintop that's up in order to, and say, I want to go there. That having a target that's up helps me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just remembered something that helped me remember. I know if I just completely disregard Earth, then I can go really quick and fly up. If I just like shoot my intention on a planet or a star, I'm really like redirected and I can just zoom there. If I stick to ground, I'm still stuck by reality, it seems like, or I'm held like mud to my conception of gravity. So I notice as soon as I like, oh yeah, outer space, boom, and I've gotten better over it over the years and it happens spontaneously, but once I start to notice that's my intention, I can go there.
I see what you're saying, and that also addresses a little bit about the structure of the inner world and the dream world, where in the external world, hold on one second, I would like to make this point real fast. The external world has a structure to it, and we kind of move in and out of the structure, but when we look away from things, they stay there. But the dream world works differently, where you can move your awareness. Your awareness shifts And even you can do a practice right now. Like if everyone takes a moment and places your awareness in one tiny speck, like everybody can, and you can have your awareness in one small thing. And then you can take your awareness and fill the entire room. Just make it fast. Just be present to it all at the same time. So we have this ability to shift this awareness field and location. And we can also take awareness and put it on top of itself and become aware of awareness. And that's interesting too. Or it's that's when you're talking about lucidity, you're becoming aware that you are aware. So it's an interesting practice that I don't have the correct elegance to say it right, but
it's you're observing the observer.
Mm-hmm.
Very kind of
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The mirror, like the mirror.
Going back to what you're saying about being aware in your dreams, I can recall that some of the most intense dreams I've ever had that I was conscious of I was very conscious of my emotions as well. And when it came to flying, I remember I was one time running along a sea cliff, and it was just such a beautiful experience for me. I just felt like so much joy overwhelming me that I just jumped off and spread my arms and just started flapping them like a little bird, and I just began to fly through that just experience of just joy itself. And I think that also helps the experience of lucid dreaming, being in touch with your own emotional self as well.
I see what you're saying. I'd like to talk about that in actually, I'll let you talk. So formulate.
Okay. It was actually based on that anyway. I was going to say one time I was having a lucid dream where I knew I was lucid dreaming, but I couldn't fly, and also there was like a lot of scare. I was in like a fearful state, sort of. It was kind of like a post-apocalyptic kind of land, and it wasn't until actually someone in my dream pretty much like grabbed me, ripped me up, and was like, "This is not how I raised you. Fear we raised you in love." It wasn't until I switched to the feeling of love, and then sometimes like I'll use that, just the word love in my dream as a mantra or something, and then as soon as I did that, I could totally let go and just go into it and flat and change like the entire world. But it wasn't until I like transformed that fear part.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And one of the ways you can look at it is the inner world has energy sources, and there's a couple ones that are really clear. Being fear. When something scary happens, your body wakes up a lot. And also empowerment and love. It also, if you are in a lucid dream and you embrace that, it becomes an energy source, and it makes the world more vibrant and more interesting, and it empowers you. So one of the great things about lucid dreaming is the empowerment that you get from it. It's a very empowering experience.
What about dreams that come true?
Precognitive dreams?
Yes, please.
If anybody would like to talk on that, I've had a few experiences, but they're intertwined with so much stuff that.
After that, I have a question as well. It was the night before that whole 9/11 thing happened, and I was dreaming, and I saw an airplane crash in front of me with people in it. Oh, sorry. So it was before 9/11, and I saw an airplane crash in front of me the night before, and there was a man that came out and his arm was cut off and said, "Help me, help me, help me," and just all these people were dying in front of me, and I was like, "What?" And I woke up, took a shower, and to get ready for school, and my mom's sitting on the couch just saying like, "I can't believe this, I can't believe it," and I was like, "Well, what happened?" You know how they say you always remember where you were at when JFK got shot. Well, I always remember where I'm at. And 9/11 happened. I was in my robe, and my mom was sitting there just in disbelief, and I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "They just crashed these airplanes into these buildings," and I was like, "Whoa, okay, that's kind of weird." It wasn't exact, but it kind of gave me I was like, "Why did I have this?" But so yeah, that's my example, and I have more just people running into people and stuff. But my question is, how do you go back to a dream, like if you were supposed to learn something, but something in the outside world was around you and messing with you, because something was cutting off my oxygen, so I couldn't breathe, because it was trying to wake me up, and I had to actually go in my dream, I don't know how, but I heard myself yelling at myself, "Wake up, wake up." And I didn't want to because I was with this older gentleman and older woman, and I was going to learn amazing things. But I couldn't because I had to come back. And when I was awake, my eyes were still closed. I couldn't move and I couldn't breathe. And I was suffocating. And so I yelled at my own self in my head, like, wake up, open your eyes. And then my eyes opened up and I was able to take a deep breath. And so whatever wanted to keep me from it, that knowledge, I want to know how to go back, is my question.
I believe the best way to go back is to hold that as your intention. The next time I get lucid, I would like to go back into that situation. And you might have to walk for a while to get there, and continue to hold that intention, and also allow it to come in your life in the future. So it may not come back for years, but knowing that it will help, and holding it as your intention. If that's the thing you want to experience when you get lucid, then just hold that. And even if you do the wake back to bed, at 6 o'clock in the morning, you can actually walk through the dream again. And the Lucidity Institute's most popular technique is called mild or mnemonic induction of lucid dreaming. And what it involves is the wake back to bed technique. So 2 hours before you need to get up, you wake up, you recall your last dream, and you play it through your head. And then you get lucid in your imagination, like, oh, well, I know that was a dream, and if it was a dream, this is what I would do differently. So you're using your memory of a real dream, and then injecting lucidity into it. And then you fall asleep, and then it increases your likelihood of getting lucid in the future. And that's actually the technique that the Lucidity Institute teaches and promotes the most. The second thing I want to talk about with your experience and your question was the part in which you were your body was trapped. So there's something called sleep paralysis, and if you're starting to have lucid dreams and vivid dreams, it increases your likelihood of having this experience. And what happens is when you fall asleep, one of the phenomena that happens is from your brainstem down you become paralyzed. So everything above the brainstem is identical. Not identical, but a lot of the processes of the brain are the same as when you're awake. So if you run in a dream, the running phenomenon in your brain is being exercised. So you're developing your running ability in your dreams. The signal gets blocked, so you don't get the return signal, but your brain makes that part up. But the reason this is important for that is because you become paralyzed from the neck down. So if your consciousness did happen to wake up, and there was and your body continued to stay asleep, you would notice that you're paralyzed. And so this is a phenomenon that lots of people have reported. And actually, how many people here have had sleep paralysis? Okay, that is a lot. We are at the Lucidity Festival. So there's a couple things that you should know about it. First of all is you're safe. And once you can identify yourself in sleep paralysis and identify it as that, it's another practice in which you need to convert the fear into like exhilaration or just safety. Just know that this is a phenomenon that is often scary, but you're safe. Because most people have horrible experiences with it because they don't know what's happening, and it's scary. And the nature of the dream world is one in which if you're afraid, then the experience becomes more scary. And I know from personal experience, even when you identify it as sleep paralysis, it's still completely convincingly real. And the most common difficulty is that someone or something is coming and you can't move. And if you're afraid, then something scary is coming. So even if you can identify it as sleep paralysis, you still might want to get out of it. So how you get out of it is to relax. So there's something about sleep paralysis that it's fed by fear and tension. So if you tense up in sleep paralysis, it gets stronger for some reason. But if you let go, it fades away. You can also transition into a dream. I'm not sure how, but sometimes you can, and you can enter a dream that way and continue. And then people do report, most sleep paralysis people, they shock themselves out of it somehow, like yelling or fighting, and eventually you get out of it. Eventually the body does wake up. So it balances out eventually. But does anybody else want to share a sleep paralysis experience?
Well, I know how something I use when I'm in a nightmare or a dream I don't want to be in, like how to wake up, is just like close my eyes really tight and then just open them. It just always wakes me up.
That is an example of a technique. And also the thing about that, what the example illustrates, is you have created a mental construct. And this is how techniques work. That works for you. And you believe it works, and it has worked. And therefore it's something you can rely on in the future. And that is part of the structure of the inner world. And I didn't share about flying, like with a technique. For example, if you learn the technique to fly like Superman, which is just like one fist out and fly like that, and it works for you, then you can rely on it in the future, because it becomes a technique that works, you believe it works, and you experience that it works, and you can, and it's no different than just, you know, it's like, it's a technique. There's nothing about your fist that makes you fly other than this mental construct. But yeah, also, it also touches on the fact that the dream world requires you to stay engaged in order for it to exist. So the moment you close your eyes in a dream, you're most likely going to wake up because you're denying the content. Does anybody else have a sleep paralysis experience that they want to share, or something
I just
related?
wanted to say that the respiratory center is located in the brainstem. So if you're going to fight or flight, it's the midbrain. Do you want to talk about that? Do you know about? Do you want to talk? Okay. The amygdala is the fight or flight response. It's like a little bean in the center of your brain, and your body that'll get triggered, like dinosaur chasing me, and it shuts down certain systems. It's supposed to expand the lungs so you can run away and get oxygen. But in this case, it would be. She was, I don't know. It's just interesting that it was like the brainstem is the respiratory center, and then what he was talking about earlier is taking a really big breath. That's just kind of like, wait, breath, brainstem paralysis.
Another symptom of paralysis, of sleep paralysis, is a heavy weight on the chest. And some people think that there's something pushing on them, or they can't breathe, or something's on them and holding them back.
Who here knows about astral bodies?
What?
Astral bodies? Who here knows about astral bodies? Like they're like energy emotional bodies. And I'm from Japan, and in Japanese we call the nervous system shinke, which means God's path. And so if everyone can just raise their right hand up right now. Right, now put it back down. And raise your middle finger up. To me, that's what like consciousness is basically about. It's whether you're raising your hand up or whether you're focusing your attention to the tip of your middle finger and going up. And so if your consciousness, your godness, is in the tip of your finger, then you can actually reach there. But whereas if it's in your hand, you can only reach up to your hand. And the same goes with like the dream state and the wakingness, is that if you can focus your consciousness on the center of your brain and breathe some of that energy in, then you can actually open a lot of the energy portals that especially lie in the center of your brain. And that's why they call it the nervous system, because if you're nervous in a particular place, it reflects in your nervous body. And so as you become less nervous, then you are able to flow your hands into that position without any stress. And so when you were saying like a lot of people have a really heavy feeling on their chest, a lot of that is associated with like the heart chakra. The energy here, if you're not opening your heart to everyone and sort of embracing all the connection that you could make with people, you know, your body tends to close it out like this. And I remember doing a meditation once, you know, concentrating on opening the heart, and that night I went into sleep paralysis, and I was fully conscious, but my heart woke me up, and it beat it at like 200 beats per second for about 5 seconds, just to activate it. just to let me know that my consciousness is the outer body, and there's something inside my soul essence that I can actually actively communicate with it if I do more work and if I am actively engaged with that. And it has so much divinity and wisdom to teach us. And really, like, it does help to reach out to people and interact with people, but the most important thing is that you're your best teacher, and your soul knows exactly what it wants. So if you are able to tap into that divinity within, then you can start manifesting those things as if, you know, you're in a waking life, and we're all just collectively dreaming. So, thank you.
That's another reason why I'm here presenting lucid dreaming, is because I believe it is an inner wisdom that we tap into, and that if everyone listens to their inner wisdom, then it'll help us progress as part of the human race and as a species. It's custom messages that are designed for us. And it's definitely integrated with our body and how our body functions, and tapping into all the different systems that are in there too. And Arya, do you have something you'd like to share about it?
Are we just discussing sleep paralysis?
No, you can just any lucid dream experiences or...
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hi everybody. Hare Krishna. Well, when I was 11, I had a very powerful yogic type experience where I thought I was falling asleep, but I was actually like in some very deep kind of stretch. And the next thing I knew that was happening was I was in a kind of like a ping pong between hardness and softness. I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this, but it's the only way I can really explain it in words is like we've all seen that line that like is kind of dipping and it's going deeper down into the well, like a gravity well or something like that, right? It's like you're getting more and more tightened in as you come down, and then boom, sent to the outside, and then flip-flopping back and forth between that until that vibration became one feeling, that the hardness and the softness were one thing. So I had that experience when I was 11, and it led me to some profound lucid dreaming down the road, like some very profound, because I thought I was dreaming when that experience happened. It turns out from my study and practice later that it was actually an unconscious state that I was in. So, but I explored dreaming quite elaborately to try to figure that out. So I had many experiences of sleep paralysis before I began lucid dreaming, and I remember one time I thought usually when I have sleep paralysis I think I've woken up, but I haven't. Is that fairly common? Yeah.
Also known as false awakening.
False awakening. Okay. So the first time that happened to me, I thought I had woken up, but I thought there was some weird-looking monster peering through my door. You know, you're a kid, you have an imagination, I guess, but I was having a really frightening experience, and my eyes were open, but I was not awake. That was the impression, and I was very fearful. So the comment somebody made about the nervous system earlier, there was something definitely to that, because I was feeling very nervous and not open to this personality kind of coming into my room, or so it seemed. And that created a very extended period of sleep paralysis until I finally like kind of surrendered to what was going on, because I realized I was helpless. And then the heart opened up, you know, with the surrendering process, that's what it's all about, right? So that was the first time. But
what happened?
What ended up happening? Well, when the sleep paralysis ended, it was more like in sleep paralysis, extremely disturbing state to be in for me, because I want to move and take care of like the problem or whatever situation is going on, but I'm not able to function. So I'm like kind of like fighting the energy, and then it's only, you know, as I said, with the surrender that it comes to an end. But the reawakening out of that state typically comes in the form of like kind of falling back into an unconscious state before I can awaken again. I don't know if other people have that experience, but that's generally what happens for me, is I have to kind of like go back to being unconscious again before I can deal with waking up again. And the first time I had a lucid dream, though, are we able to talk about that now? Okay. I have some weird karma with my brother. He's like my nemesis or something in life, which is, you know, not actually true, but just my perception. So he comes in the dream, my brother comes into my room and says, "Hey, why haven't you combed your hair?" And I was always like really, you know, not happy about my brother criticizing me about stuff. So it bothered me in the dream and it woke me up. You know, that I woke up and I was like, oh, whatever, it was a dream. I go back to sleep. And then a second time, my brother comes into my room in my dream, same exact scenario, and says, "You need to comb your hair." And I'm like bothered again and I wake up. But then upon the second time waking up, I was like, wait a minute, I just had the same dream twice. If that happens again, I'm gonna know that I'm dreaming. And sure enough, I was blessed with the opportunity to have the third time the dream happened exactly the same again. Except the third time, and just like you said, it was all about heart opening and really like, you know, like accepting that relationship with my brother and having a loving exchange. And instead of me responding in like a negative way to him, I could understand like the transcendental nature of the situation, that really it didn't matter about combing hair, you know, like that wasn't really like important so much. But that here's my brother and I actually really love him, you know, like it broke through a lot of that. And when that feeling of me kind of like getting free of the concern and opening my heart, suddenly the whole world in my dream state became illuminated in such a fascinating way. I can't really explain that, but it's like, just imagine you're like looking here, and then the brightness and the color and the connection with everything just becomes so intensified that you feel like you're enlightened. Although my opinion is that the dream state is not necessarily the enlightened. That's just my opinion after studying this. But it's definitely like a very high vibration that's going to lead you to a place like that eventually. And I developed a little bit of an intention because I realized I was dreaming. Going down the stairs was not walking, it was floating. And I went out my front door and I could sense that I was about to wake up because it was so exciting to me. I really wanted to like, you know, experience it and just like get into it, but I wasn't able to hold that concentration. So I looked to the sky and decided to fly because, you know, everybody likes to fly in their dream, right? So I just started ascending up towards the sun, and I felt like I was entering into the sun, and then as I was waking up, as I'm entering into the sun, isn't that a pretty powerful experience? I mean, it was really amazing. And the world resolved. My eyes were already open, and the world resolved. The material world that we're all experiencing now resolved before my eyes. It wasn't that I went from like, you know, being knocked out to like waking up, but I was already awake, kind of like in that paralysis state a little bit. But now I was just becoming aware that I was awake, something along that line. So that was really the profound thing. And then I studied Stephen Lauberge, which he also has studied quite a good deal from that time forward, and did a lot of lucid dreaming with a lot of intention, which ultimately led me to the spiritual practice that I'm a part of. So I really do believe that lucid dreaming is a huge key, just like intoxication can be, you know, taking mushrooms or different things like that. They can all be keys to getting you to open the door. And I also believe, though, that all of these things, once the door is open, then it's time to go through and not remain attached to these, because dreaming is temporary. Does everyone agree? So we want an eternal position. But these things are powerful tools to get you into the spiritual consciousness, in my experience.
Thank you very much. Hold 1 second. So one of the things that, another aspect of dreaming and lucid dreaming is it is a lifelong journey. The things that you learn about it and the experiences you have, they grow on themselves. And there's an up and down to it, because sometimes you have profound dreams and sometimes you have not so profound dreams. But it's something that will be with you for your life, your dreams. And once you start accepting them and studying them and learning from them and having experiences, they shift and change as your life shifts and changes, and they present you with reoccurring experiences that you're trying to figure out. And then with regards to lucidity, lucidity is great because you're bringing your conscious awareness, and they're usually vibrant dreams and profound, and you go through revelations about love and opening your heart and the power that has on the inner world, and we also notice how it has an effect on the outer world too. So there's a progression you go through with lucid dreams, and I've noticed that the experiences that we have, there seems to be 3 stages to it. First, when people become lucid in the beginning, they often seek out exhilaration and pleasure, and flying is the simplest example, but dream sex is like is a tide for this awesome experience, and another energy source. So of course you will indulge those when you get lucid, because you can, and they're exhilarating, they feel good. Once you've had a certain amount of feel-good experiences, then I've noticed people move into a more objective or goal-oriented mindset, and it can shift into like, well, I want to heal, or I want to have creative art experiences, or I want to speak to someone from the other side, or a celebrity, or get inspiration from somebody, or dream quotes. You start to be more goal-oriented, like I want to do this, and sometimes it doesn't have to be so solid of a goal. It can be like, I would like to explore, I'd like to play with what's there. But it's still setting an intention that's specific, and you know that if your heart is open and you're open to good experiences, that coats the experience too. But it's great when you wake up from a dream and there's an exact message that you pull from it. And I've noticed that the third thing, eventually a lot of people say, well, what happens when you take a lucid dream to a spiritual level? Like, what if my intention is to have a spiritual lucid dream? And so it seems like people eventually say that, and they try to have those experiences. And so that's I feel like the 3 levels of, or that seems to be a progression that I've noticed that a lot of lucid dreamers have. But also it's always unique to everyone's own experiences and how you construct it and what you seek out in that state. But there's a couple things I want to make sure to cover. I think there's about 15 minutes left. One of the things is supplements and things you can take to enhance the dreaming experience. And I want to open it up to hear from people who have taken something that has increased the vividness of dreams or led them to have lucid dreams.
Melatonin. Melatonin, and I remember I'd drink a lot of the, what are the Bob Marley drinks called? Marley's Mellow Mood. Like, those have melatonin in them, and like they always make me have a very vivid dream.
Okay. I'm going to add to that real fast. So melatonin is a definite good example, and it works in a specific way. It's a very safe thing to take. Our brain already has melatonin in it, and when we go to bed, the melatonin levels increase, and when our body detects daylight or daytime, the melatonin levels decrease. But if you take a melatonin pill in the beginning of the night, what it does is it increases the levels of melatonin, which causes your body to go into a deeper level of sleep. And by getting that deeper level of sleep, you allow yourself to have a lighter level of sleep later in the morning when the melatonin has worn out of your system, and you have more vivid dreams from it. So the exact effects of melatonin is deep, non-dreaming sleep. But if you take it at the beginning of the night, you'll have vivid, lighter sleep.
I feel like it also it carries on for like days after. Like, it kind of gets me in the mode of dreaming, and then like next nights that happen after, they're always like vivid as well.
Wait, so what was that about melatonin? And is that good or bad?
It's good.
So
It's a good one.
And when should you take it? Early?
The beginning of the night.
Oh.
Anything that puts you in a deep sleep, you take at the beginning of the night, will give you more vivid dreams in the morning.
Mugwort, Kalia, and well, those 2 for sure have had significant effects. Mugwort and Kalia, and even like entering into the dream state, like before I'm falling asleep, I even begin to start dreaming when I take those sometimes.
And how do you take them? Is it?
I do it as a tea because it seems to be more effective that way. I heard you can smoke them, but you know, I don't really want to smoke that. So.
Okay. Mugwort is a definite known dream-enhancing herb that's relatively safe. It's safe. Does anyone else have something to add?
I studied a lot of religions and like just body work and stuff, and what I realized that the most dense form of energy is probably just we're interacting with it constantly. But one of the ones that we can harness consciously is probably the sun. Sun gazing, I highly recommend it. Don't do it. Don't overexpose yourself. But watching the sun rise is a very, very powerful practice. You're just consciously aware that another day is beginning, and also the sunset as well. But yeah, I think the second one is actually to be using, again, your breathing, to be smelling things, because a lot of the inner wisdom that we're tapping into right now has been passed on through millennia. Like this is before we were even human beings. Like this is a lot of what we experience, especially in the dream state. And whenever you talk about dreams, you can't sort of avoid the topic of death and the death of your ego and your consciousness and all of that. But more often than not, it was probably like when we were insects, and there was a forest fire, and all these flowers and everything was just burning, and you're just flying frantically to get away from that to make a home somewhere else. You're smelling all this crazy chemicals that are being released by the flowers and everything in the forest and nature, and here we are right now experiencing something really similar. Like, it seems like everything is just like burning. We're not really sure where to go, what to do. But if we can harness a lot of the inner wisdom within the flowers and nature and breathe that in, then we can probably get closer to the collective states of consciousness that tribes like us were experiencing in shamanic domes, for example, where everyone, they would dedicate a day to access higher levels of consciousness as a group. And what they would do is gather flowers from everywhere and get in a dome and then just light all this thing on fire and do breathing exercise inside, like really stimulating the brain, and everyone sort of enters that state at once. And we're just, we're so quantumly entangled that as we come out of it, we realize that, like, we're all going through the same experience at the same time, and that's the divinity. And if you can utilize that power, the collective wisdom, rather than trying to depend and control our own inner wisdom, tap into what other people think and what other people are feeling and experiencing and seeing, and that could really help guide each and every one of us, and as a species as a whole.
And that's also one of the important reasons, like the third reason I mentioned, why sharing experiences about lucid dreaming is important, because we tend to have our own way of doing things. When we get that information from other people, it's really helpful. So I know our time is very limited. There's two things I want to make sure to share. There are a couple well-known supplements that boost dreaming experience, and so if you have a dream practice and you're interested in having it pushed further, any chemical that increases acetylcholine levels in the brain will enhance your dreaming experience if you take it during the wake back to bed practice I mentioned, sleep interruption, 2 hours before you would normally wake up. If you're a light sleeper, you might want to take it earlier in the night, because some people have trouble falling back asleep once they're awake. But there's two well-known chemicals that increase acetylcholine levels in the brain. One is called galantamine. It's an over-the-counter memory-enhancing supplement. The other one's called Western medicine, and the other one's called huperzine A. It's more Chinese medicine. It's been around for thousands of years. It works in a different way, but increases acetylcholine levels in the brain. And you can always start off with a low dose and build it up, but it is profound. So I would almost say like at least 50% of my lucid dreams have been influenced by those two supplements. And so it pushes you forward, and you can have amazing experiences on nights that you choose when you do these practices. So I know galantamine is
GALATNTIME.
Yeah, and if you type it in close enough, it'll come in.
MINE. Galantamine. What was the second one?
The other one's called Huperzine A.
Is there another name for that? You said it's Chinese herb?
It's something, you know what?
Richard, could you comment on this Marley's thing that he was talking about?
It doesn't actually have. I think it's not putting melatonin in it actually because.
What is it called? Marley's what?
Marley's Mellow Mood. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they stopped putting the melatonin in it because it's supposed to be a natural beverage and it's not really a good thing for their image, I think.
You can't do too much melatonin.
But they have like other chemicals in there to help induce lucid dreaming still, I think.
Yes.
I just wanted to touch on something alternative to supplements, which would be sound. Some people are very effective by sound when they're sleeping or before they're sleeping. A lot of us live in cities, so we're getting constantly bombarded. And old ancient traditions of shamanic drumming would bring your brain into states of theta or delta waves, which would increase lucid dreaming and more profound states of dreaming. And now we're able to create and encourage those brain states through a form of binaural beats, which is two tones, slightly detuned, oscillating at a certain cycles that encourage these states of brain waves. So just all you music lovers out there, if you even just YouTube lucid dreaming or theta waves, then it's a really good way to fall asleep to and encourage more lucid dreams.
Thank you. And another thing about the lucid dream practice, if you're doing wake back to bed, you can wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning and try all kinds of things, including listening to binaural beats and hypnosis, and taking anything. Just take some fruit and just see how, you know, and almost you can just do rituals like pray on the fruit and like just bring me dreams. It's because we know how effective placebos are. Yeah. But of course there's stuff in fruit too that's good for you. I passed out a mailing list. Is it still out there? So one of the things I want to mention is that I'm in the process of developing something called Project Red Dot. And it is something that came from one of my lucid dreams, in which I saw another dreamer who had a symbol on his arm. And my dreaming mind believed he was a member of this group called Project Red Dot. And it's spelled R-U-D. And in my dream logic, that stood for Are You Dreaming? So he was a lucid dreamer who was a member of this group. So then when I woke up, over the past few years I've been developing this idea. So Project Red Dot is two things. One, it's a mystery school for lucid dreaming. And it works with the apprentice mentorship relationship. So it's not like a course where you get a book or anything like that. You have to get a mentor in order to continue on the journey. The mentor passes all the wisdom onto you. At any point in time you can shift mentors, but you need one mentor in order to make progress. You're also allowed to have one apprentice. The other structure to Project Red Dot is that when you join, you're required to create a dream password. So that is a word or a couple words or something that you're not allowed to say when you're awake. But you're allowed to say it when you're in a dream, or specifically a lucid dream. And how it works is, all members of Project Red Dot have a dream password. So if you're in a lucid dream and you decide you want to find another member of Project Red Dot in your dream, you can go there and ask for their password. Then wake up and recall that password, and you can go and ask them if that's their password. But since I'm a web developer, I'm going to take it to a digital level in which when you join, you type in your password and it gets encrypted into a database. And then if someone else comes to your profile and types in the exact password, it compares the two passwords. And if there's a link, then it notes it in the database that there was some kind of communication, and we can monitor this shared dreaming experiment. And it's also something interesting for people to do. So that is Project Red Dot. I'm kind of developing it, and the email list, if you put your name on it, I'll send you information about it. I think there's a column that says Project Red Dot, and you can check it if you're interested in being involved with it as it kind of builds. Yes?
Can you briefly touch on what we shouldn't take that disturbs dreaming?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, another reason why I really love lucid dreaming, and I promote it and I like to spread it, is because it's such a healthy practice. You're seeking out these almost psychedelic states, but the only way to get there is if you're in tune, you're healthy, and you're taking care of yourself. So you should be getting a full night's sleep. If you're having a regular sleep cycle, meaning like you're going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, that helps. Although if you do disturb your sleep cycles, sometimes people experience long periods of REM just randomly. But overall, the best thing to do is to have a consistent sleep cycle. And there's anything that causes deep sleep and stays in the system for a long time reduces REM sleep. And so the two big ones, alcohol, because it's a REM sleep suppressant, and also makes you drowsy and uncomfortable and you need more sleep, and so it suppresses dreams in general, and pot. And that's one because it stays in your system for a while. But the good news is, any substance that suppresses REM sleep, once it leaves your body, you have something called REM rebound, which means if you've been suppressing REM sleep for a while and you stop, then your body doubles your REM sleep, or it counterbalances it. Our body's really good at keeping things balanced. So if you do smoke pot on a regular basis and then you stop, that's the time to start doing a dream practice. And many of you may notice that you start to dream vividly when you stop for a period of time.
Oh my god, that totally is true.
So those are the main ones I know about. Does anybody else know about things that mess up your dreams?
I do.
Yeah?
Late night TV.
Okay. Yeah, anything that encourages unconscious observation, where you're just passively letting things in, is bad, because non-lucid dreams are ones in which you're just going with it. What you want is to have this like curious open-mindedness, where like you're open to wonder and the possibility that this is a dream, and I'm a part of this experience, and when I shift, it shifts. So the lucid dreaming practice is a daytime practice too, and it can be really profound when you take in and you compare your dreams to this state and how dreamlike this state can be.
I got a profound lesson from a man who studied with the Shumish elder about the mugwort. They have a lot of mugwort in this area, in the watersheds, and you can just put it, if you don't want to make the tea, just put it under your pillow. I know a lot of people already know that. Just put a bunch of mugwort under your pillow. But there's a secondary thing about mugwort. They're finding that it cures ADHD. So if you have ADHD or ADD. If you're an ADD type person, you're going to accomplish two goals at the same time with mugwort tea or mugwort use.
So just a couple of things that I've come across in my own research towards lucid dreaming. I think it's always good to be able to like look at dreams and be able to practically compare them to this reality, and sort of take almost like a, you know, like how can we understand more about this reality by understanding more about the dream reality? By understanding them through comparison and juxtaposition. I like to open up to the idea that like dreams are closer to the place where we're actually from. And obviously I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but it basically reflects the idea that like this body is a vehicle. So it's a consciousness itself that exists within the dream state, which exists kind of between death and between life as well. So just a couple of like practical things that I would suggest for anybody looking to continue to practice with lucid dreaming things would be, first of all, meditation, and second of all, dream journal, and then third would be continuing to bring more awareness into this present state. So that includes things like reality checks. So I mean, right now, like, okay, right, maybe I just didn't believe that I could fly high enough, but I mean, if this is a dream, up through the tent, right? And then, so being able to do those, that's really important. and also the idea of the key of soul. Soul stands for subject, object, location. So subject, you are the subject. Object, okay, you know, like where am I? I'm holding a microphone. Is this a microphone? Maybe if it was a dream, it'd be a banana or something like that, right? And then like location, okay, I'm like with some people. Like this is really peculiar. Like how often am I in a people full of like, you know, in a room full of awesome people like this? Doesn't happen very often. Like I'm not totally convinced that this isn't a dream right now, is my point, right? And neither should you be. Because if you bring that curiosity into all of the moments that we're always experiencing, then that curiosity continues over into the dream state, which is what you want. And the biggest thing that I can't give it to you, no one else can give it to you, but it's the most important thing that will change everything, and that's consistency. So when I talked about meditation, and when I talk about taking a dream journal and bringing that into your practice, and when I talk about like questioning reality as much as you can within every moment, and that might be something as simple as bringing it back to the breath. The breath is the one constant, you know, breath is a tool we can use. So I mean, every time you bring your awareness back to your breath, bring your awareness back to the question of whether or not this is a dream within itself, right? So bring consistency into your practice, and yeah, that involves a lot of willpower, but that's where communities like this help each other, because it's really easy to sort of like just, you know, like say whatever, it's not worth it, right? But as we sort of work together, the more that we can awaken within the dream state, the more that we can awaken within this state, and that's really what we're here to do, right? We're here to wake up, I think, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So that concludes this presentation. Is the next presenter here? Oh yeah, so there's one reality test that's really effective. I've known a couple lucid dreamers who have become good lucid dreamers through this one technique quickly. And we talked about earlier that when you breathe in your dream, you're breathing with your real body too. So this technique, it's also extremely important to do anytime something odd happens that seems out of place, like the umbrella, is you hold your nose and you breathe in. If nothing happens, then you're awake. But if you're dreaming, then you will still breathe in, because you're pinching your dream nose. So one of the reasons this one's so effective is because it doesn't require intellectual process. Like text-free reading requires a little bit of like thought process, and sometimes when it changes, you might say, "Oh, it's one of those billboards that changes." You justify it, but once you do the breathing thing, I mean, that's pretty effective. So I think I am going to close the space just to allow the next workshop to come in. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to go into the shade if anybody wants to talk.